Hello guys and welcome back to HJW Gaming. In this video I'm going to be talking through the best units for initiative. Now some of you may be wondering, why is initiative on your units important? The reason for that is it determines running order, and more importantly the average of your commander and your unit's initiative will determine the activation order of commander's skills. So in this case normally that wouldn't matter, as skills will just do their damage in various turns. The only kind of effect may be towards the last turns, when it determines kind of who's going to finish in a close battle by hitting that final hit first. However, some skills activate in the pre-battle phase, like those I've been showing in the background. Big examples of this can be, say, the survival skills here of Frodo and Sam, but more importantly and more often seen, White Council and White Rider from Gandalf the White, and White Council, of course, from Gandalf the Grey, as well as Nazgul from the various different Nazgul commanders like Witch King. The reason this is important, as you can also have a pre-battle skill here from Sauron, as you see, called the Deceiver. And this also activates, as I said, in the pre-battle phase and inflicts madness, or has a chance of inflicting madness. So why is this important? The problem being is that if madness is inflicted by Sauron before your commanders activate their pre-battle phase skills, that madness can cause your commander to give the skill to the opposing army. So think this through. If you have White Council with a high amount of focus, you could be trying to give your troops 50-60% damage reduction. However, when beset with madness, that could then pass across to the opponent's army. So you're giving them an enormous advantage and also losing yourself all of your damage reduction. The same applies to White Rider. You might apply additional damage taken to your own troops. So this can be a huge swinging point in many battles, particularly when facing up against Sauron. So people often try to increase the initiative of their commander and their units on average, just to make sure that their skills activate before the opponent Sauron. Therefore, in this video, I'm going to be taking a look at the various units that do have the highest amount of initiative, just so that you can get that best average between a well-initiative geared commander and high initiative troops. If you do enjoy this video, please smash the like button and please hit subscribe to see more of my content in future. Right, first up, I'm going to talk through the Eagles. These have some fantastic upsides. The first of which being, with the removal of Snargathrax from Rebuilding Glory and King of Men servers due to the removal of Isengard and the Conscription Ring skill, Eagles in both of these servers will be the highest initiative unit available. So therefore you get that highest amount of initiative to average off with your commander to make sure as much as possible that you can get your skills activating earliest in that pre-battle phase. But on top of this, they do have some other fantastic upsides. They do have a huge amount of HP at 1100 in 4 unit conscriptions. So you do get a huge amount of XP. They do have a lot of great tanking capabilities. This is further exacerbated by their skill, the flying skill, which means they take less melee damage. So they can be great tanks for your army. The downside, though, of course, is that first up, they are neutral units, so you have to have these available, which means either being around the kind of Lothlorien area in order to be able to capture these camps, or taking up a slot in your engagement hall. Now, the other downside is that they are tier 4 units, so they are very expensive to conscript, and also they take a large amount of time to conscript. So you will constantly have one of these queues at least running, and it will take a huge amount of time. So you have to be careful to make sure you don't run out of these units. The Fell Beast, on the other hand, is a very similar unit with very similar upsides. However, it does have slightly less HP at 1040 and 1 less initiative at 19. However, the one upside you get is one of its special abilities does inflict poison damage, which can be quite useful for removing White Council on opponents when opponents have it on their own troops. So the Fell Beast is a slightly slower, but only just, slightly less tanky, but more offensive version of the Eagles. Next up we have the Berserker. Now the Berserker is a small unit and a tier 3 unit. The reason you would use this potentially over Eagles or Fell Beast, despite its slightly lower initiative with 13, is that if you use an all small unit army, meaning that every unit in your 4 formations is a small unit, you do get the small unit buff, which is +5 to initiative, meaning that these units would have 18 initiative, so be very close to the Fell Beasts 19 and the Eagles 20. Plus, Berserkers are extremely cheap, significantly cheaper resource and time-wise than the Fell Beasts and the Eagles. So you can keep pumping these out. So when you're in a tense war situation, you can make sure you never run out of troops. In addition to this, with the Berserker being an Urukai unit, if you have the 1.0 Shield of the White Hand, you can also push their initiative significantly above almost every other, well, pretty much every other unit as well, as the 1.0 Shield of the White Hand does have a skill, as you can see here, for increasing Urukai initiative. So if you have that as well, the Berserker can be the best initiative unit in the game. Next up, I'm going to talk through the Guardian. Now, many of you will be wondering why I'm mentioning the Guardian. Whilst I believe it's the best unit in the game, as it has very great HP, very good defense, and is extremely cheap to produce, it doesn't have great initiative. However, there is an item in the game. If you use the 1.0 Worn Smoking Pipe, it does have the Haste of Dwarves effect on it, meaning that you can boost the dwarves' initiative by +12, or up to +12, meaning you can get the Guardian's initiative to 17. So, you know, being very, very close to, again, those Eagles and Fell Beasts. But it's also a small unit. So if you use a whole small unit army, you can also benefit from that +5, giving Guardians +22 initiative. So you can make one of the cheapest and best defensive units in the game have more initiative than an Eagle or a Fell Beast. So just keep this in mind, that you can actually use, as I said, one of the best units and give it amazing initiative. So I just thought it was worth a mention in this video. A couple of final mentions. Snargathraks have a base initiative of 11, however they do have a skill that allows them to gain +4 initiative, so really they have 15 initiative. Plus they're also small units, so if you place them in a small unit army, they do gain that +5, putting them up to 20 initiative. Finally, they do also gain from the Shield of the White Hand, so they can also go up to 32 initiative, making them an extremely fast unit, and due to their high amounts of HP, defense and damage, they can be extremely effective, though of course they are tier 4, so very expensive. I only didn't want to cover these too much, as they are only available in the Tactics Evolved season since being removed from King of Men and also from Rebuilding Glory. The Dunedain small unit should also have a slight mention here, as they do have slightly higher initiative even than a Berserker, and can be used in a small unit army again to get that small unit buff. And they can also benefit from the next item I think is worth mentioning, which is the Drums 1.0. If you still have these available, you can get a refinement on these that gives up to +12 initiative to any melee unit. So if you have this in your back pocket, it could be very worth keeping, as of course it will then be useful on Berserkers, Snargers, Guardians, any melee unit. However, of course, you should also bear in mind the actual stats of the item itself, as it may not be as useful, say, as a worn-out smoking pipe with Haste of Dwarves, which its particular benefit is not only the +12 initiative to the Guardian, but also the +45 focus, making it potentially one of the best in slot items for Gandalf the White, who of course would massively benefit from that focus. Anyway, with that, I've been HJW Gaming. I really hope you've enjoyed everything on here. If you have, please smash the like button and please consider subscribing to see more of my guides in the future. And with that, I really hope to see you on the next one.